Hello everyone, welcome to this video on embedding a report viewer control in an ASP.NET Core application and rendering an RDLC report. RDLC stands for Report Definition Language Client Side. It enables users to create and render reports directly within .NET applications, eliminating the need for a report server. RDLC files include layout and data binding logic, allowing dynamic and interactive data presentations. They support viewing local reports using JSON arrays or custom business object collections. Key advantages include no server dependency, a flexible designer, interactive features like drill-through and sorting, and easy deployment. Before creating an application, I ensured that the .NET SDK is available on my machine. I create a new ASP.NET Core project by running this command and naming it Core Report Viewer. Next, I install the Bold Reports packages to add necessary dependencies. Next, I navigate to the application's root folder and add the boldreports.net.core package to the application. This NuGet package contains all dependency packages to add the Bold Reports report viewer to the application. Then, I add the boldreports.aspnet.core package to create, view, and export various report types. It also contains tag helpers to create client-side reporting controls. I create a resources folder in the www root folder to store the RDLC reports. I already have a product details RDLC report. I add this report to the folder. Once the sample report is added, I open the application in Visual Studio Code. I will initialize the report viewer in the project by opening the _view import.cs HTML file in the Views folder. Bold reports.tag helpers allow you to integrate server-side with our HTML elements effortlessly. The add tag helper in boldreports.aspnet.core uses the Bold Reports functionalities in the application. Next, I reference the report viewer scripts and the style sheet to integrate the report viewer into the project, using CDN links. You can also use local scripts and themes. I open the layout.cs HTML file in the views/shared folder. Then, I copy the code from documentation and add them to the head tag. I have included the documentation link in the video's description. Next, I create a div element with a body section to render the report on the client side, removing the existing code and assigning styles. Then, I invoke the render body method. Next, I add the render section method and Bold Script Manager tag to the body section of the HTML file. The render section method is used to define a section in Razor View where you can inject additional scripts. Bold Script Manager is a custom HTML tag provided to manage the loading of the report viewer control. I create a productlist.cs class file in the application root folder to handle the business object data collection, which will be used in the report. I add the necessary data collection code to the class file. Now I will configure the Web API service to process RDLC report files. I create a new controller file named reportviewercontroller.cs within the controllers folder and add all necessary using statements as references, declaring namespaces and adding classes. I add the Microsoft.ASP.NETCore.MVC namespace to the controller file, which lets you build the web application, including web APIs, and provides routing and model binding. I add the boldreports.web.reportviewer namespace, which provides the class and interfaces specific to the Bold Reports library and is used to configure and manage the report viewer. Next, I add the Microsoft.ASP.NETCore.HTTP namespace, which provides types for configuring and running web applications. I add the Microsoft.extensions.caching.memory namespace, which provides in-memory caching capabilities to store and retrieve data quickly. I add the System.io namespace, which enables input and output operations, such as reading from and writing to data streams and files. Then, I add the core report viewer.controllers namespace to avoid naming conflicts. Inside that, I add the attribute that tells ASP.NET Core to enable cross-origin resource sharing for that endpoint, using the rules defined in the Allow All Origins policy. And add the route attribute for the report viewer controller. Next, inherit the controller and implement the IR report controller interface in the report viewer controller class to handle report viewing. The IR report controller interface declares the action methods required in the Web API controller to process reports and handle resource requests. To read the report file from the application, I use the iWeb hosting environment with dependency injection. Next, I add the post-report action method to process the report request from the server side based on a JSON parameter and send the response back to the client side using the HTTP post action. Then, I add the onInitReportOptions method, which is invoked from a report helper when the report is about to be processed during preview. Within this method, I set the value of the processing mode property to local. I create a base path variable to combine the web root path of the application and resources folder. Then, I create a report path variable to combine the base path and report name using reportOption.reportModel.reportPath to access the available report. Next, I create a file stream instance to open the product list RDLC file in the resources folder within the www root directory using the report path variable. Then, create a memory stream to store the report data. And copy the file stream into it. This prevents file access problems in the server while running the application. I assign the stream values to the reportOption.reportModel.stream variable. Lastly, I add data value collection to the data source value. Here, name is case-sensitive and should be the same as the data source name in the report definition. The value accepts the list, dataset, and data table inputs. Next, I add the onReportLoaded method, which will be invoked from the report helper when the report is loading for rendering. Then, add the getResource method to get images to be used in the report from the server when previewing it in the designer. The action name getResource and accept verbs. Get attributes specify the endpoint and HTTP method for retrieving resources. Then, add postForm report action to save the exported report to the client side using the HTTP post action. Now I need to invoke the Web API in the controller from the client side to view the report. I open the index.cs HTML file and create the bold report viewer tag in it. This custom HTML element provided by the bold reports library is used to embed the viewer within a web page. Inside the tag, I add the ID attribute and assign a viewer, which specifies a unique name for the HTML element. The report service URL specifies the URL of the report service that processes and renders the report. And the report path specifies the path to the report that you want to render. Next, I open the program.cs file. I add the addCores method, which is commonly used to configure cross-origin resource sharing policies for web applications. Then I need to register the license token to remove the license validation message. In this demo, I will use the online license token. License tokens can be generated in the Claim License Key section of the Bold Reports Accounts page. I open the program.cs file. and enter the code snippet to register the token. I have provided a link to documentation on registering a license using online license tokens and offline license keys in this video's description. Now, everything is ready to preview the report. I run this command in the command prompt to generate an URL. Then I copy the URL and run it in a browser. Looking here, the product details RDLC report has been rendered with the configured data binding collection. In this video, I have shown you how to embed an RDLC report into an ASP.NET Core application with the report viewer control and render it successfully. To learn more about Bold Reports, you can visit boldreports.com. If you don't have a Bold Reports subscription, you can try out the platform using the Try It Free option. If you prefer a demo from an expert, Request Demo allow you to schedule one. If you found this video useful, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like it. Thanks for watching.